It's really hard to believe that a unit of this size is so capable. When we start to look at the energy savings that are provided by a unit like this that essentially draws 100 watts or less and can run multiple virtual machines at once, it becomes truly astounding. What we have here is an energy savings calculation spreadsheet. And basically it starts in the upper left-hand corner where it shows the number of units and the watts per unit. So if your current node is one compute node and it consumes 1,000 watts, then your total is 1,000 watts. A CriKit node would be one node and 100 watts. And the total there would be also 100 watts. And the difference would be 900 watts. So if we take that difference and bring it down here and say the wattage difference equals 21,600 watts, which is 22 kilowatt hours per day at a price of 32 cents a kilowatt hour. The savings of using CriKit would be $6.91 a day, $2,523 a year, or $12,614 over 5 years. To look at it another way, your wattage today would be 1,000 watts and the CriKit node would be 100 watts, so that's 24,000 watts versus 2,400 watts, and that's 24 kilowatt hours per day versus 2 kilowatt hours per day. And again, at 32 cents a kilowatt hour, the daily cost for your current system would be $768, annual cost would be $2,803, and then 5-year cost would be $14,016. For a CriKit, the daily cost would be 77 cents, and then the annual cost would be $280, and the 5-year cost would be $1,402. So if we look at this, there's a savings of, again, $691, and then the $2,523, and the $12,614. If we take that further and go to coal, and how much coal is being used, so today with your 1,000 watts, it would be 24.72 pounds of coal per day. And then with CriKit, it would be 2.47 pounds. So the coal savings would be 22 pounds a day, and then over 8,000 pounds a year and 40,000 pounds over 5 years. So that's just one node. That's comparing one 1,000 watt node, an older server type system with maybe a single processor that's a quad core, something like that, that has 2 power supplies that draw 500 watts apiece. So let's go ahead and take a look at what it would mean if we went to 1,000 nodes and actually did 1,000 nodes of the CriKit environment. So now it becomes a little bit more interesting, where the difference is 900,000 watts, and we can kind of cruise through this. 900,000 is 21,600 kilowatt hours per day, and the daily savings at just 1,000 nodes is $6,912. Savings per year is 2.5 million. The 5-year savings is 12 million. But if we come downward to coal, it gets even more interesting. Now we're talking about 24,000 pounds of coal a day versus 2,400 pounds of coal a day. The coal savings would be 22,000 pounds in a single day. It would be 40 million over 5 years, 20,299 tons. So let's take it even further. Let's say, all right, we're going to actually do a 2-to-1 consolidation on 100,000 nodes. Okay, so 100,000 nodes onto 50,000 CriKit nodes yields a difference of 95 megawatts. A 95 megawatt difference. 95 million watts difference is a daily wattage of 2.28 billion watts, or 2,280,000 kilowatt hours per day, and the daily savings of $729,600, a yearly savings of $266 million, and a 5-year savings of $1.3 billion. That has to sink in. Just a relatively small number of old computers consolidated 2 to 1 on a CriKit node, which is basically 4 cores and 8 threads, so consolidation is very easily possible. And it's a savings of 95 megawatts. And when it comes to the coal, today that coal would be 2.4 million pounds a day. So the coal savings would be 2.348095 pounds per day, or 1,174 tons a day. It's over 4.285 billion pounds over 5 years, or 2,142,636 tons of coal saved just by consolidating a relatively small number of current compute environments, current servers, onto smaller, more energy efficient microservers. You have to think about this. You have to let this sink in. It is absolutely significant. And actually, there's a piece to this that isn't brought in here, and that is server rooms need to be cooled. And so a 1,000-watt server needs to be cooled with some number of watts to cool it. A 100-watt node does not need as much cooling. So these numbers could actually double if you start to take into account the cooling and the space requirements for these existing machines. It's time to move to microservers.